Welcome to this meeting of Regeneration and Community Committee of Tuesday, the 12th of November 2024, here in the Town Hall in Enniskillen. Can I please just start with any apologies that we have? Not seeing any. Oh, Sir Campbell.
Councillor Catherine Kelly and also Councillor Padraig Kelly. Councillor Devine Geller will join us online.
Thank you for that. Okay, I'm not seeing any further indications at this stage, either online or in the chamber, so we'll leave it at that for now. We'll just note that we have got Councillor Devine Gallagher, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Gannon joining us virtually, and they're observing the protocol of having their cameras switched on, so thank you very much for that, folks. I have signed the minutes and confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 8th of October 2024. And just before we move on to declarations of interest, I'd just like to take this opportunity actually to welcome Sinead here to her first meeting as the director. Looking forward to hearing your contribution, and sure there'll be plenty of questions to be dealt with over the course of your work. And also, actually, this is my first opportunity just to welcome Councillor Barton back to the chamber and into this committee. So I look forward to working with you again, Rosemary. And just with that then, just on item 3. Okay, I see. Councillor Gannon, you're looking to come in there?
Thank you, Chair. Just on declarations of interest on 4.2 as a member of the Geopark Committee, and there's allocation of funds. Thank you.
That's no worries. Folks, declarations of interest now. So I see Councillor Thompson indicating.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I better declare an interest in 5.2 as a member of the Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, do we have any? I see Councillor Campbell. Oh.
I wish to declare an interest in item 4.3. It's the Workhouse Innovators Student Entrepreneurship Hub. And can also advise that Padraig Kelly will be joining us online. Councillor Kelly.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, I'm not seeing any further indications at this stage, but if there is anything that comes up, just feel free to buzz in. Okay, so moving on to reports for decision, item 4, Regeneration and Planning Directorate reports, and we're starting off with item 4.1, which is to consider the draft response to Invest in I consultation 24 to 27 business strategy, paper A, and council powers have been conferred to the committee to deal with this particular matter. So.
Chair, and good evening, members. So the purpose of this paper is to provide you with an overview of the consultation by Invest NI on their 2024 to 27 business strategy, which they've titled Our Future in Focus. And the strategy is appended to the paper. And then to seek your approval for submission of the draft response to the consultation. And as the Chair has noted, given the deadline, the council powers have been conferred to the paper because the deadline for response is noon on the 14th. So I suppose just to take you to the key issues then in the paper itself, the strategy sets out an economic vision by Invest NI, and it's focusing on promoting regional balance, increasing the proportion of working age people in good jobs, raising productivity and reducing carbon emissions. In terms of the detail of the consultation, the strategy identifies the need to drive productivity through increased global competitiveness, introduction of an improved regional approach, maximising the impact of growth deals, capitalising on our unique dual market access, free trade arrangements, and seize the opportunities that exist in terms of an all-island and east-west basis. And the strategy also highlights the need for Invest NI to embed a culture of proposed partnership and collaboration across Northern Ireland, Ireland, UK, and beyond. So in terms of the response that has been prepared, it's attached to Appendix 2. It's been drafted to reflect the issues that are relevant to Fermanagh Omagh District in the context of the proposals that have been set out within the Invest NI strategy. So I suppose then in terms of the recommendation, it's recommended that the council endorses the draft response to Invest NI business strategy consultation.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Remember, you've had the opportunity to look over the detail of what's in that response. I'm getting an indication here from Councillor Thompson.
Chair, thank you, and thanks to the Director for the report. It's just a wee query I have there. It's regarding 2.1 item 4. It's about the emissions. Regarding, it says UK there. Should that not be GB? Clarification, Chair. It's the final line on that paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor, yes, it should be. So we're happy to update that, to amend that.
Yeah. In that case, if it's updated, Chair, I'm happy to propose a recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. And I'm going to bring in Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. There's many documents and there's many strategies. Is this the main overarching strategy for Invest NI? And if so, should there be a reference to their new approach, the sub-regional economic plans? Should that be referenced in some way in the document? Is it an omission, maybe, not to have it referenced there? That's basically my question. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Question. Feel free to buzz in at any time.
Okay. Thank you for the question, member. So in terms of the strategy, as I have read it, it's their overall, I suppose, business strategy. So there are obviously various other strategies within Invest NI, but this is their approach, I suppose, in terms of how they're going to support businesses, in terms of the reference to the omission. I think that's something I'd be happy we could pick up in the response and we could amend to include that, if you're content with that.
Yep. Thanks very much.
Thanks for that, Sinead. I'm seeing Councillor Green.
Thank you. I suppose following on from Barry's point there, I remember requesting a number of years ago, it could be 10 years ago now, of the exact figures of what had been Invest NI had actually provided per council area or per county even. And it was quite shocking what came back. It was something like maybe £2.50 per capita in Belfast. And it was like 33p per capita in Fermanagh, Omagh. So again, I don't see anything in this where they're trying to overcome that deficit or come to some other arrangement. And I know we have been told, as Barry said there, we have been told before that they're changing their strategy. But if this is the overarching one, it doesn't really seem to be that it's any kind of a priority if it's not mentioned in this. So I think we really do need to reinforce that we are expecting big things from, well, off the record, I'm not expecting big things from them, but that way, as a council, we are expecting them to fulfil their promises.
Okay. Councillor Withers.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I would welcome that there's a input there in terms of regional balance and the all-island collaboration on the economy. However, I do feel there's maybe emphasis on growth there that maybe could be better shared out amongst social enterprises and the likes of community wealth building and things like that. So with that in mind, just so as in a related matter, I would just like to propose that we would write to the department to ask them if there's any update on their social economy work programme for next year, and if around and any plans around community wealth building and where they might be with that. I know there was some recommendations made from the Department for Communities 2 years ago, and I'd just like to see where they're at with that in terms of progressing that, if we can do that as well, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Withers, I don't think Councillor McElduff seconded. Would you be happy enough to second the response?
Yeah, happy to second as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not seeing any further indications at this stage. The recommendations of the report have been proposed and seconded, but we don't have a seconder for Councillor Withers' proposal as of yet, and I see Councillor McColgan giving a seconder. Okay, are we agreed then with the response? Agreed. And are we content with Councillor Withers' proposal? Agreed. Okay, thank you very much, folks. Let's see. Moving on then to item 4.2, which is to consider a report on various tourism initiatives, paper B. Sinead?
Thank you, Chair. Okay. So members, the purpose of this report then is to seek member approval on a number of tourism development initiatives across the district, which support the outcome and actions within our visitor experience development plan. So the first matter in the report is in relation to the Culca Lakelands Geopark Sustainable Business Network. So in terms of the network itself, each of the 32 network members has completed a 14-week sustainable tourism destinations programme. It has focused on a range of topics, including energy management, biodiversity, leave no trace principles, collective storytelling and marketing. The network is hoping to undertake a range of activities as set out at point 2.1.2 of the report. So it's proposed that the council provide a £5,000 contribution within the current financial year towards a network activity, and then that would be matched by Cavan County Council. And then the second part of the report then is just to update members on the Fermanagh Oma Tourism Conference. So preparations are ongoing to host a tourism conference for businesses operating the visitor economy. And it's proposed the conference would take place on Thursday, the 27th of February, 2025 in the Killy Health and Lakeside Lodge, or Hotel and Lodges. And to date, Conor Murphy, Minister for the Economy and the Chief Executive of Tourism NI have confirmed their attendance at the conference. Officers are continuing to engage with the various tourism agencies and speakers in terms of regenerative tourism. And we would propose that we would bring back then a further update on the conference agenda for our January 2025 committee meeting. And a date will be communicated to stakeholders via our corporate communications and Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism. So in terms of our recommendation, then members, it's recommended that Council supports the proposed funding allocation of £5,000 within the current financial year to support the Culca Lakelands Geopark Sustainable Business Network, and notes the update pertaining to our tourism conference to take place on the 27th of February 2025.
Okay, thank you very much for that, and positive that we've had that confirmation of ministerial engagement at that. Councillor McCardle.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to propose the recommendations, and I know our fellow councillor, Andy Feely, who's chair of the Geopark, he'd be more than happy with the £5,000. Actually, he's jumping for joy in the house there. No, I'd just like to propose that.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to go to Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, again, thanks, Chair, for that. Just the second part of the recommendation, the tourism conference, I know we've got the date and the venue there. Who's that open to, with regard to councillors, or is it just the committee within the council?
I would presume that it would be open to councillors at the time, yeah.
Open to all councillors? Okay,
yeah.
Thanks for clarification.
Okay, yeah. I think it would be, open to all councillors, yeah. Okay. And Councillor Thompson, are you happy to second that?
Yeah, I'll second it. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. I don't see any further indications either online or in the chamber, so we all agreed? Fabulous. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on then to item 4.3, which is to consider the report on the various local economic development initiatives, paper C. Sinead?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so members, this paper is to seek members' approval for the Workhouse Student Pilot Scheme, and then also to provide an update in terms of the progress of our local economic development activity in the period until the 30th September, and also an update then on our Global Enterprise Week. So in terms of the detail then, the Workhouse has submitted a proposal to deliver a pilot student entrepreneurship hub to provide a platform for students who are either in the process of starting up their own business or are interested in entrepreneurship. The hub will serve as a monthly meeting for students with the aim really to foster innovation, collaboration and growth amongst them. And the promotion of this would complement our Go Succeed service. As part of this service, the proposal is to allocate up to £4,000 in sponsorship to support the Student Entrepreneurship Hub. And then the next section of the report is really an update on the local economic development activities that we've taken place in the period of April to September 24. There's a lot of detail obviously in the table and I'm not going to rehearse it, but just to note there's obviously been a considerable level of activity during that particular period. And then finally, the final section of the report is really an update on Global Enterprise Week, which is taking place next week. The event has been shared across the Council's social media platforms, and the detail has also been sent out to the businesses that are registered on our database, and the detail of it is appended to the report. So members, in terms of the recommendation then of the report, it's recommended that the Council approves the sponsorship of £4,000 from the Go Succeed service to run a pilot for the Workhouse Innovators Student Entrepreneurship Hub. That we note the update on the local economic development initiatives for the period for the 2024-25 financial year, and notes the activities planned as part of the 2024 Global Enterprise Week.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to bring in Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to propose the recommendations. I'd just like to welcome all the initiatives that have been ongoing through the local economic development groups with all the different companies. I think that's excellent and something to be encouraged across the district. So thank you very much.
Let's see. Okay, I've got a seconder there from Councillor Rainey, and I'm not seeing any further indications to speak. So if we're all content, we're all content. Okay. Moving on then to item 4.4, which is to consider business case assessment report, paper D. Sinead?
Sure. So the next report then, members, is in relation to our business case assessments. So in terms of just the background, in March 2024, the Council approved its revised options and appraisals policy, and the policy details the internal assessment processes associated with the business cases and appraisals. And the purpose of this report then is to consider two business cases, to note one business case, and then there's also two addendums to business cases within the report. So I suppose taking each one in turn then, the first business case then for consideration is the Strategic Capital Grants Programme. So at the July 2024 Council meeting, members proposed rollout of a 5-year Strategic Capital Grants Programme to provide a mechanism for investing in the Council's urban and rural settlements and to provide local community organisations support the project plan to enhance the existing facilities or to meet an unmet local need. Members proposed that the Council invest £5 million over a 5-year period for the projects being developed by the community and voluntary sector, and a total of £1 million would be made available for grants call each year, providing capital funding to a minimum of 8 community and voluntary organisations per year. The business case has recommended having 2 strands of support for groups, the larger strategic grants of up to 300,000 and then our medium capital grants of up to 100,000. And just to note that all grant recipients would be required to contribute a minimum of 10% in match funding of the total project costs. In terms of the actual process, as you would expect, there will be a completed application form required from all the applicant groups. and the applications would be assessed and scored against defined criteria, and applicants would be provided with guidance on the criteria and the assessment process. In terms of the actual grants themselves, grants call we're proposing would be reviewed on an annual basis to ensure the Council considers any lessons learned from the prior year. An annual review would also take cognizance of any new funding opportunities that may become available to community groups. And this may include an assessment of how the funding call may impact on the Council's grant criteria. In terms of the indicative budget for the project, as I've noted, the cost of the programme is £1 million per year and scheduled to be delivered annually over the 5 financial years. So in terms of the funding status, the project is scheduled to be delivered annually, subject to approval and then obviously subject to approval for inclusion in the capital estimates programme for 25-26. And thereafter then it would be subject to approval annually through our capital estimates procedure. In terms of the next business case then in the report, this is in relation to our signage, our dual language signage 2025-26 and 2026-2027. So this business case is seeking approval to implement dual language signs when requested and approved in line with the street naming and numbering policy. The project involves the manufacture and installation of signs approved through the dual language request process and will ensure that the rolling programme for the dual language signs continues over the next 2 financial years until 2020-27. In terms of the indicative budget for the projects, you will note that it's just over 300,000. And in terms of the fund status, the project is scheduled to be completed over 2 financial years and is subject then to approval for inclusion in the capital estimates programme for 25, 26 and 26, 27. I just noticed a typo in the report there. The next then business case is in relation to Oma Agriculture Mart in terms of fire alarm replacement. So the case outlines a case for replacement of the fire alarm system at the Mart. The project will design and install a modern fit-for-purpose alarm system suitable for that type of building and also upgrade the fire suppression within the cafe. The project will ultimately ensure that the building is compliant in terms of fire safety regulations and fire safety and rescue services order. And in terms of indicative budget, it's 78,000. And in terms of funding status, the project is scheduled to be completed in 24-25 and 25-26. And budget exists within the current capital programme in 24-25 to complete the work. The next section of the report then is in relation to the 2 addendum. So the first one is in relation to our Grange retrofit project. So the addendum for the Grange retrofit really seeks approval to increase the scope of the project, members. The total cost of the project remains as had been previously approved by Regeneration Community Committee in January 2024. And the original business case was approved for the completion of what we had referred to as the Phase 1 works. This particular then addendum is really proposing that we bring forward some of what we had referred to as the Phase 2 works to install critical infrastructure, which is at the end of a serviceable life. And that really is in relation to replacement of the main switchboard within the building, an upgrade of our building management system, and also an LED retrofit project to upgrade lighting, energy efficient lighting within the building. The proposed Phase 2 works outlined can only be completed when the building is closed and vacant. Obviously, we've gone through our stage of decanting the staff from the building. So from an operational perspective, this is the opportune time to undertake the work when the building is decanted. It ensures then that we don't have to engage in a further decant for this level of work. And it ensures obviously then an efficient and fit for purpose building for our council services. So if the proposed works are progressed, the total spend is still projected to fall within the approved spent in total. And it also leaves additional budget for unforeseen issues which may occur during the completion of the Phase 1 works, potentially leading to compensation events. So in terms of the status then, it has been approved by the Capital Programme Management Board and is scheduled to be completed in 24-25. And then finally, the next one is in relation to an addendum to our Omer Leisure Centre primary heat source. And this particular addendum then to the business case sets out the reasons for an increase in the cost to the approved project. The initial business case was approved for costs of £95,861. And the overall aim of the project was to remove the existing biomass boiler and to install a new gas fired boiler and convert the 2 existing LPG gas boilers to natural gas. In terms, I suppose, of the urgency to progress, there is an urgency to progress this insofar as the existing biomass boilers recently broke down. And then in terms of the actual need for increasing the cost, we had engaged in terms of a tender process which didn't have a successful outcome. And we're going to go back out to tender for the project shortly. But in doing that and reviewing our costs for the project, it was established that we needed to increase the cost of the project. And particularly given that there were no value engineering options available that would reduce the project costs. So it was deemed necessary to complete the addendum and increase the budget by £44,139. So in terms then of the status, it was approved by the Capital Programme Management Board on the 21st of October 24 and is scheduled to be completed in 24-25. In terms of the recommendations then from the report members, it's recommended that the Council approves the business cases detailed in section 2.3 and 2.4 of the report, notes the business case detailed at section 2.5 of the report, and notes the addendums to the business cases as detailed in 2.7 and 2.8 of the report.
Thanks for that, Sinead. I mean, there's a fair bit in there, members, and I see there's a fair bit of interest. Just before I go on, Councillor Donnelly, were you looking to come in after Councillor Green? Okay, that's no worries. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Sinead, for that report. I'm really happy to see the Strategic Capital Grants Programme progressing. At this stage, I think it'll be a huge benefit to the Fermanagh and Omagh area. I think it's the Fermanagh and Omagh District Council going over and beyond to help out community and voluntary sectors of the community, and I really believe that it's something that's the community groups and voluntary groups are really crying out for. So I am more than happy to propose the recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll just bring in Councillor Donnelly here.
Thank you, Chair. And again, like Councillor Green, I'm more than happy with the content of the report. I think it's excellent. I think it's really good for the entire district to be able to have a project like the Strategic Capital Grants Programme rolled out that gives opportunities for development in our urban and rural areas. I just had a couple of questions, and it's probably obvious, and you probably have already considered it. I assume there will be a reserve list, a note that there's one project for the Category 1 and a minimum of 7 for Category 2. Presume there'll be a reserve in case a project decides not to proceed for whatever reason. Would that be the case? Yeah.
That would be the case.
Yeah. And then if there's any underspend, a note from Capital 1, it goes to Category 2, which is good. What happens if there's still an underspend in Category 2? I would like, if possible, that all of the million can be rolled out, to groups. It won't go back to reserves or whatever. I think it is important that we do continue through with the £1 million to be spent in the district.
Well, I suppose, yes, we would work our way through, but if they don't meet the threshold is 65%. Mm-hmm. And, they do, these are big grants and the groups have to be capable of managing them. So if we do, but I mean, based on previous calls, they've always been so oversubscribed that I cannot see that situation arising, but we don't know. Mm-hmm. But yes, any groups receive the score of 65%. And say they're on the reserve list and somebody else pulls out or there's an under, yes, they will get funded.
Okay. Is there any intention, sorry, Chair, to come back in, that it maybe might roll over to the following year, or is the aim to keep the spend in year where possible?
In year where possible, yes.
That's very good. Okay, I'm happy to note the recommendations to second. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And Councillor McElduff.
There's a number of elements in this document, obviously. I'm very supportive of the business case assessment in relation to the programme of grants there. And that strategic grant is very, very important. As Seamus said, we're going above and beyond. In a way, and it's something I would make a point about, is the likes of Sport NI haven't had capital grants for about 10 years plus now. And that's a deficit that needs to be addressed as well. DFC and Sport NI needing to recreate grants of that nature. It's my intention to bring a motion to the council of that nature, you know, to call on the Sport NI to recreate capital grants for clubs that do so much for themselves. I mean, the voluntary fundraising is amazing. What's taking place in our community right now is a phenomenon where people are backing themselves, and in the sporting sector in particular I'm thinking about, that's one element of this. And then in relation to the Grange retrofit, when will the Grange reopen to the public is a question, you know, in line with the proposals here. Will it be January? And I think it's important. I know we all think it's important, but it's important for the civic status of Omagh that the Grange, you know, the joint headquarters of this council is up and running again. And finally, in relation to 2.8, some people have said to me about projects of this nature that there's a better way of doing things, a more cost-effective way of doing things. Who should people like that speak to? You know, is it in order for anyone to have a pre-tender discussion with the council about like a pre-planning application conversation? Is it in order for someone to seek guidance on the procurement and tendering process if they're normally outside the system? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so date potentially of reopening the Grange if it's available.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a 6-week extension, so the Grange would be opening again then. We've said there just middle of February, so I would propose that we would be undertaking I suppose a series of comms to everyone around that whenever we're at a stage where when we know that's going to happen. So the middle of February.
Just in terms of the procurement, I suppose for many of our projects, I suppose we have frameworks, and you know we've just recently went out and completed a tender process to get contractors onto various frameworks. So I suppose we did at that time, do a major awareness piece, to make people, local businesses, aware of the frameworks being set up. So those contractors are probably in place now for it's probably 2 years. I'm not really sure. I can't remember. But so those frameworks are in place. So I suppose for the majority of our contracts, we would be using our frameworks. But I suppose if we get funding from an external source, and sometimes the funder would say that you have to go externally, or you can't use frameworks or whatever. So it's sometimes down to the funder as well. If they might state that we have to have an open process and we can't use the frameworks that we have in place. But sometimes even for some of our funders, they're content with the processes, because we would have undergone like an extensive process to get those contractors onto lists. So I suppose if you had the name of someone and they were interested in maybe being on in one of our frameworks, if you want to give me their details, and we could get, Nuala, the procurement manager, to let them know when we're likely to be going out again to get that list renewed again.
Thank you. That's right. Thanks very much.
Okay. Going on then to Councillor Withers.
Carly, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just want to welcome the significant initiative that is the Strategic Capital Grants Programme. I think it's a great move by the Council, and I think it'll bring huge benefit to local communities and the voluntary sector there as well. It'll have a huge positive impact. Another point as well is just the investment in the dual language signage. I think it's great we've seen the visibility of the Irish language growing throughout the entire council area, and there's clearly a great demand there, which brings me to another point on there seems to be a bit of a backlog. I know we've raised this before. I'm just wondering if there's any plans to increase capacity to get through that backlog, or if it's how we're working through it at the moment, if it's been reviewed, or if there's any way we can move through that process a bit quicker. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, yeah, just in relation to the backlog, yeah, there is a backlog. We're probably about near enough halfway through the total list which we received. We do process somewhere in the region of 7 to 10 applications per month. And that is the maximum that we can do in relation to the staffing that is there. We have not employed any extra staffing in order to assess the roads with the electoral office and all of the documentation that is required. The £300,000 is solely in relation to the supply and installation of the signs. It does not refer to the staffing costs that are associated with the assessment of those. In order to increase capacity, it would tip us over the limit in that we would need extra staff in order to undertake any further or to increase capacity of the number of roads that we were assessing on a monthly basis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that this was a fairly live conversation that we actually had at Environmental Services the other night, where in discussing a live proposal that I know that's been in the pipeline for quite a while with respect to the Lamy area. I think that it was anticipated that it wouldn't be reached potentially until next year. So it's an illustration of the level of demand within the system at the minute. We're going to go to Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair, and certainly we welcome the huge investment in the capital grants programme. It will be a big help to a lot of the communities out there and different groups. On another note, the Ulster Unionist Party will be dissenting from the second business case on that, and that is the installation of dual language townland sign and development signs. Thank you.
Okay, I've got Councillor Buchanan there indicating.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks to the officers for bringing the report before us. Again, our party welcomes the investment in the strategic capital grants and also the work on the Grange and the work on the OMA agricultural mark there as well. And likewise to Councillor Warrington, I would like myself and Councillor Thompson to be recorded as being against the business case listed at 2.4. I know there's been numerous people have contacted me regarding these signs that don't see the value for money in them. And it is an awful lot of money, and as the officer said there, that only covers the installation, never mind the staffing costs and the extras that's included. So if that can be recorded, Chair, that'd be appreciated, please. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we'll deal with that after I've taken a few more speakers. Councillor Campbell.
Harley, well, I wanted in also to commend the officers for the work they've done on the strategic capital grants programme. It's great to see that programme being rolled out in the next year, in 2025 and onwards. And I suppose in relation to the dual signage, I appreciate what's been said there. There is a huge backlog, and I know of cases where there's over 24 months, so it's heading, it could be 3 years in some cases. And I wanted to know, had the officers ever, have they considered, I know that it's following the policy, but is it worthwhile considering perhaps taking a percentage of applications per DA just to spread the impact of the signage across our district? Because unlike the Unionist Party's presence, I don't actually get anyone that's complaining about these signs. People actually want signage. They want roads to be accessible for emergency services, and they don't have any issue in the vast majority of cases with dual language signage. And I think it's disappointing that there's that backward stance. I mean, I've said backwards a couple of times this last few weeks, and it's disappointing that we have to keep talking about the backward approach of unionism in the current time. But just on that point, and I also want to ask, in respect to the dual language signage, there is a point on the application that asks for translation, and some people that want these signs won't actually know the translation, and that's okay. It's okay for people to want dual language signage, to want to see the translation but who may not be comfortable with giving the exact translation. And some very experienced Irish language speakers and advocates would also not be comfortable maybe making a definite call on the actual translation for an area. Local people could refer to different translations. So I wonder, could that possibly be removed and let that actually not be a barrier to people submitting applications, Chairman?
John?
Thank you, Chair. I suppose in relation to taking a percentage of applications per DEA, policy is probably the way in which it operates at the moment is probably the fairest way in which we decided in order to operate it on a first come, first served basis. In order to do it by a percentage per application, yes, it does include further administrative task in deciding which DEAs, and we don't have an equal spread of DEAs, I have to say, across the district either. You know, Mid Tyrone, we have a huge amount of applications in from Mid Tyrone, and it would mean that some of the others, you know, would in Mid Tyrone would have to fall by the wayside whilst doing that. So I suppose the fairest way is the way that we are operating at this point in time. We will get round them all. And I suppose if we say that all applications are equal, then, and I know you probably don't see the visibility of that at some stage in some DEAs, but like I say, I think the fairest way is on a first come, first served basis. In relation to translation, that certainly should not be a barrier. Many of the applications which we have received, we have not got that translation. Yes. And I know the policy it was 2021 policy, so it is probably coming up for revision or for looking at again. What we could put in there is in brackets translation if known, and that certainly would not be. But at the moment, we do not turn away an application if there isn't a translated name there in a case. But whilst we're revising it, we can certainly put in if known.
Yeah, or suggested, or if no one, that'd be great. Thank you, Chairman. Thanks.
Okay, I'm just going to bring in Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. You know, as far as I'm concerned, where people are making requests, the system is too slow. And I personally would like to see capacity built in to respond to the demand. And for the Irish language to be posed month in, month out by the DUP and UUP is very, very disappointing. And it doesn't reflect where people are at. People are very interested in their place names across all traditions. The origin of their place name commands great interest to it. It's a very, very strong issue. Pobble Aranule in the Omagh area, for example, is a community-based group that wants to see more of these signs. The children who attend Gael School na Gran and other Irish medium education and who learn Irish at English medium schools, all of these young people, and there are hundreds and thousands of them, want to see these signs. They want this visibility. The English language is included. It's not about eradicating the English language, but it's about making sure that the Indigenous Irish language is included. And it's the will of the Council. We have expressly taken a decision on the policy. In respect of the Omagh DEA, and I'm grateful to our Director, John Boyle, for recent correspondence, I am advised that 2 signs have been put up at Glenside, Teve and Glana, that a further 22 dual language signs await the consent of a property owner if it has to be erected on a wall or a fence or a gable wall, that type of thing. Dublin Road, there have been requests and these are being met. Now, I myself put in the request in February 21 for Lammy Crescent, Lammy Drive, Lammy Walk, O'Kane Park, Culmore Park, Tirquin Road and Brookmount Road. Didn't overload the system, made sure that this was requested by the people. I was the conduit or vehicle for that. And it is disappointing for me to learn that it will be more than 1 year before these are in place. So that's why I would like to see additional capacity And I'll leave my comments to that for now. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Thank you, Councillor McElduff. And I think we'll maybe leave the discussion there with Councillor Green finishing there.
Thank you, Chair. And I wasn't going to come back in again, but Victor always seems to be able to ignite something within me. And I suppose I've said it before in the chamber.
Folks, I mean, I'm just conscious. I mean, I don't really think it would be useful if this did turn into a protracted argument that we have had month in, month out. Not least given, Councillor Green, you've already been in.
And as you said, I'd be the last speaker, so I'll make it very brief. But just to say, because I'd be representing the people that I represent by saying this, that the good old UUP never fails to miss the opportunity to actually reach out to their fellow citizens. You know, is it any wonder that there's people in Belfast protesting about an Irish language school when you see this type of backward thinking in our council month in and month out? And in fairness to the DUP, they usually only come in after the UUP has come in and tramped over the ground. And if this GA or Irish ever mention this chamber, one of the UUP councillors, young or old, will come in and try to degrade it or try to say that it's not wanted.
Okay, I'm going to close this item off. But you know what? Okay, do you know what? I will be fair. Given I did allow Councillor Green, probably against my better judgment, to go on, I'm going to allow you to have the final word on this, but this is going to be the last word on this, and then I'm going to allow John to come in. Oh, yeah.
I think it's well known our feelings on this, and we dissented and we didn't say anything else. I'm on the record personally as saying I have nothing personally against the Irish language. My problem, along with a lot of my unionist colleagues, is the fact of the expenditure on this over the period of time. We had our estimates meeting last night in which we were discussing financial savings for the incoming year, and I feel this is an expense that we can do without. And it's nothing personal against the Irish language, and despite what some of the councillors in this chamber will say, well, you can believe me or not believe me, I don't really care what you think. But I have no problem with the Irish language, but I don't feel that it's worth the money that we are paying out at the moment to get it. And as for Councillor McElduff wants to see the thing speeded up, well, that's obviously going to cost more money, and it's already been alluded to by the director. You know, the cost there is for the signs only. It doesn't include the labour costs of going out onto the ground and doing it. I'm not going to get into a debate about this, but I'm certainly not going to take anything from other councillors without responding. Thank you.
Okay, John, were you looking to comment on this?
Chair, just in relation to the system being too slow, I just want to place on record that is due to the number of applications that we have received rather than the speed at which officers are actually undertaking the function. I think it is worth pointing out that I think another council has employed permanent staff in order to do this, and it's my information that they undertake 5 roads or streets on a monthly basis. As I reported, we undertake between 7 and 10 on a monthly basis. So just to place it on record that it is due to the quantum that it was received when the policy was brought in is what has slowed the whole process down, rather than the energy with which the staff are undertaking it.
Okay, I think Councillor McElduff is going to be constructive and ask specifically a query about this. Okay.
Well done. Thanks, John, for that, and I accept that. I'm saying the system is too slow because the people are in a hurry to see the Irish language visible in their place name signs. The people want this very, very much. But I will say that Irish language speakers and Irish language enthusiasts pay rates too. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've that out. Folks, I think we've had those proposals proposed and seconded by Councillor Green and Councillor Donnelly successively, with the exception of some dissent to the proposals with respect to dual language signage received by both the Ulster Unionists and the DUP. Are we content? Okay, thank you very much. Right. So was that 4.5? Okay, so we're now moving on to item 4.5, which is to consider the report of Director of Regeneration and Planning Paper 8.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, members, so the purpose of this paper is to cover quite a number of points really across the Directorate. So the first one is in relation to a letter of offer. So this is in relation to the Art Fund Reimagine programme, and a notification of a funding award has been received from the Art Fund of 42,000 towards the Reimagine programme. The next aspect of the paper then is in relation to female entrepreneurship funding. So this is in relation to the Voices of Seven, and there's a group made up of a group of female business owners from Anoma District Council area. And the group's facilitating a business exchange visit to New York in early November, which will include a conference on the 7th of November, obviously just passed. Meetings with industry expert speakers and other entrepreneurs, Invest NI and the Irish Business Organisation. So the group had suggested the council participate in the delegation, but unfortunately the timing meant that there wasn't sufficient time for us to do that. Given that the visit and associated events complements the council's wider economic development strategy and the key target market of women entrepreneurs, a contribution of £500 sponsorship has been made under delegated authority. And the group will provide an evaluation of the visit to us, and they will also provide the council with early notification of this proposed 2025 programme, so that we could consider representation on any future visits. The next section of the report then is in relation to a letter of support from the council. So this is in relation to the Atlantic Technological University in partnership with Catalyst, Queen's University of Belfast and University of Ulster in applying for funding to the Peace Plus programme. So because the project complements the work of the council, particularly the Digital Transformation Flexible Fund, it's recommended that the council provides a letter of support for the project. And just to note, there'll be no financial support required for the council in this context. The next part of the report then relates to our Community Planning Strategic Partnership Board. And the Partnership Board met in person in the Town Hall on the 19th of September. And there were updates provided by council directors. And there were also a number of actions agreed at the meeting. And to note then that the next meeting of the board will take place on the 9th of December here in the Town Hall, with hybrid facilities being available. The next section of the report then is an update for members on the council's application to the Peace Plus programme investment, area 1.4 for Oma Peace Park. So the council had applied to the Peace Plus programme for the Oma Peace Park project, but the application was submitted in September 23. But unfortunately, the application for funding was unsuccessful because we've been advised it failed to meet the required eligibility scoring thresholds. The council has contacted the SEUPB to ask for further information on the reasons why the project was not funded, and will also be seeking a formal review of the decision. The next section of the report then for members' information is really to set out an overview of the number and the status of the actions from this committee in the period from June 24 to September 2024. So members, in terms then of the recommendation, it's recommended that the council notes the acceptance of the Arts Fund Reimagine programme, retrospectively approves sponsorship of £500 to Voices of Seven towards their costs of their conference visit in New York, approves the provision of a letter of support for the Innovation Enabling Technology Clusters project, notes the update on the Community Planning Partnership meeting held on 19th of September, notes the correspondence from SEUPB regarding the council's application to Peace Plus programme for investment area 1.4 for the Oma Peace Park, and also notes the regeneration and community actions update for June 24 to September 2024.
Okay. Have anybody coming in on that item? Okay, I'm not seeing any indications, so just need a proposer and seconder then. I see Councillor McCardle. Oh, I see Councillor Donnelly's looking to come in.
Thank you, Chair. And Sinead, it's just to ask, did you get any feedback from SEUPB? I know that contact was made, but was there any comments, or are you going to wait for this report?
Chair, if I can just come in, we just got notification the week before last. We have a debrief meeting with SEUPB next Monday. And following that, we have 14 days to apply for a review of the decision, and there is a formal process by which you go through for that review. The review is just under two criteria: that the outcome was a decision that no reasonable person could have made on the basis of the information provided, and that there was a failure in adherence to the procedures or systems that materially affected or could materially affect the decision. So it's very strict on the reasons on which you can actually appeal as such, but we will be undertaking that process.
You, John, I suppose even if it's not successful, it would be good to have a learning from it to see what we can do for the next time there's not decision made. So I'm happy to second, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Donnelly. Again, I'm not seeing any further indications, so then we're agreed. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Now moving on to Community and Wellbeing Directorate reports. 5.1 to consider report and draft from Ananoma Anti-Poverty Strategy Pathways Out of Poverty, Paper F. John.
Thank you, Chair. May 24, RNC here recommended approval of the draft anti-poverty strategy for consultation purposes. That consultation is now closed, and all the consultation responses have been reviewed. I know members will be well aware of the poverty issues that exist within our district, and the stats have been quoted many times. 23% of the Fermanagh population are, over the past 6 years, have been living in relative poverty, and probably regionally 3% more than that in children and young people who experience poverty. But I think it is well recognised regionally that members' attention here from the district in relation to addressing poverty over the past number of years has been the forefront of actions, and I think the decisions that members have taken certainly has to be recognised in that regard. The public consultation was undertaken from July to September. We had a total of 59 responses. There were a number of consultation workshops that took place, and section 2.5 of the report highlights the major changes which we are recommending. Overall, well over in the mid-90s percentage of the people who responded to the draft strategy agreed with the actions, agreed with the mission, and agreed with the way forward. There are minor changes which are suggested in the document, and those are included as an appendix. We do plan, if members agree to the strategy, we do plan for a launch event to take place on the 5th of December. And certainly this will be an important milestone. Members will be aware that the executive has not yet produced an anti-poverty strategy for the region. So we will be one of the first councils in order to place what we see as a very important actions for our district. And again, as part of the Mayor RNC committee, it was recommended that Fermanagh anti-poverty strategy, when it was finalised, that it would be forward to the Northern Ireland Executive for an example of best practice. Therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council notes the consultation report included at Appendix 1 and approves the revised Fermanagh and Omagh anti-poverty strategy, Pathways Out of Poverty, which is attached to Appendix 3. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. And I'm going to bring in Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. I want to propose the adoption of the report and commend the Council for the work that we do in this area. And it has been acknowledged at regional meetings I've attended that this Council is doing very well in terms of publicising as well, you know, the measures that are in place to help people and the partners they work with or we work with. So I would agree with the Director there that we're very progressive in this area. And again, it's against the backdrop of DFC not committing funding this particular year, which reduces our ability to be of greater help, you know, because the package would have been made up of central DFC support, kind of augmented by council input. This time it's going alone with a council budget, isn't that right? In respect of money not coming from DFC.
Yes, Chair, and I think you will see later on in correspondence information from DFC in that regard, but we'll discuss that at the time.
Okay, thank you, but I'm happy to propose the adoption of the report.
Okay, I'm not seeing any further indications at this stage. Would it be possible to get a seconder for the report? And I see Councillor Donnelly. We all agreed? All right, thank you very much. Moving on then to item 5.2, which is just to consider the minutes of the Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee meeting held on the 1st of October 2024. And I think you've got some comments.
Yeah, Chair, the minutes of the Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee from October are there for noting. Just some link to it. Members will be aware that Dr. Siobhan O'Neill, the mental health champion, gave a presentation at the Strategic Partnership Board. And following that meeting, I've met with her and her team on a range of issues about how we improve the mental health of the residents of our district. One issue which Councillor McElduff had mentioned was the acute mental health unit in Omagh, and had asked at the Strategic Partnership Board that Dr. Siobhan O'Neill would take forward and make representation to the department in that regard. And just maybe for the upcoming Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee, maybe this is something that could be on the agenda. That the business case is actually back with the Western Trust in relation to the acute mental health unit in Omagh. They are assessing it at the moment, making revisions to it to make it fit in with the regional mental health strategy. So it may be appropriate if members decide to get an update from the Trust at the subcommittee to see where that process is actually at from the Trust point of view. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. And actually, I mean, I think it would be worthwhile just to actually say once again that it was really welcome and worthwhile having Professor O'Neill come down here to have that engagement and to have that important conversation about rural mental health, because it's certainly something that's a growing problem within our communities. I'm going to bring in Councillor McElduff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Agree with you 100%. And this is a big strategic priority for this council. You know, we know what the big ticket items are. What we want from central government departments. We've cited them, we've listed them ourselves, we've sent them to the Programme for Government team. We've even preempted that when the executive was reinstated. We need to keep this on the agenda, and I certainly intend to raise it as well directly with Trust representatives at the first meeting proper of the Area Integrated Partnership Board on the 22nd of November. But I welcome the fact that our director and people within the team have been engaging with Professor Siobhan O'Neill. She promised to be a champion, and it was great that necessary information would be exchanged at a meeting like that to equip Siobhan and others to help us in this battle. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair, and thank you to Director Boyle. I know I declared not just as a member, but I would agree with Councillor McElduff on this occasion with regard to the mental health unit, and I was at the meeting, obviously, with the Community Planning Strategic Partnership Board as well, with Professor O'Neill. I thought it was a very interesting engagement on that day. But I think you're right, Director Boyle, with regard to bringing it forward with the trust and maybe an update at the next meeting in December. If that can be put onto the agenda, would be very, very useful. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I see Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. No, it's in relation to a number of issues around the trust and that, and I think we need as a council to be raising them time and time again, any chance we get, whether through this subcommittee or not. One of the issues is I noticed that the beds availability for transfers from the SWA to the Altnagelvin was down at 26%. They're now saying that it's up to 76% now that people that's transferred from SWA up to the Altnagelvin, that 76% of them get directly into beds without going through the emergency department. But even at 76%, that's a quarter of the people, and I really do doubt that figure, but that's almost a quarter of the number of patients going up that end up sitting in SWA. I have heard personally nightmare stories of people going up and sitting for up to 48 hours in a waiting room in a chair with a drip attached to them after leaving the bed in the SWA. That's not what we were told was going to happen. That's not what we were told by the trust. So I think we really need to keep pushing at that. The other one, I suppose, the big Bengoa is getting back now on the agenda again. Bengoa to the people of Fermanagh and Omagh is basically cuts, as far as I can see. Maybe somebody can tell me different, but that's all I can see, that Bengoa is basically going to take services away from everywhere bar the Altnagelvin. Omagh, the SWA, everywhere is going to lose services. They're talking about making the SWA into the general hospital, removing it from being an acute hospital. That is in a document released by the minister. I don't know how anyone can deny that. The SWA is mentioned in it as one of the ones being going to be listed possibly as a general hospital instead of an acute hospital. I think we really need to, as a council, push the Trust and the Department of Health on these issues, because if we sit back and accept that Bengoa is going to be the outcomes for us, we're accepting cuts as far as I'm concerned. And I suppose the other rather disturbing thing that was in the papers there and that recently was that the Department of Health has now refused one of the campaign groups refused freedom of information requests in relation to the emergency general surgery being removed from the SWA. They're refusing to give any more details about the outcomes and that. I think that's quite scary, that if the department just decides they can ride roughshod over the freedom of information legislation and refuse to give it out any more. So no matter what would happen, bad things that can happen in the future, they will not provide the statistics around that until emergency general surgery is reinstated. Now, and I say if it's reinstated, because they're saying it's temporary. It's been temporary for a long time now, and there doesn't seem to be any sign that it's going to be reinstated. And they have just blankly refused to give any more freedom of information requests, any credence whatsoever in relation to this. So I think we need to really be writing to the department on these issues and telling them that we're not happy about them, that all we can see is cuts and refusal from the department to actually provide information. It's quite disgusting, and that even with their own figures, that 25% of the patients that leave SWA isn't getting a bed, even though they leave a bed in the SWA. They're not getting a bed in that in the calendar. So I would propose that we write in relation to them things and get clarification around all of them, and that we keep getting updates on that at least on a monthly basis.
Okay, I'm going to take in Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, there's a breakdown in communication somewhere within Councillor Green's party, because I was at a trust meeting last Friday with the chief executive of the trust and two of the directors, and certainly prior to that meeting there was also a meeting with representatives from Sinn Féin. So certainly I would assume that they got the same update as we got in the meeting we were in on, and certainly a lot of what we were told was contrary to what has been said by Councillor Green here tonight, and certainly again, I'm always very cautious about taking what I read, not that I read much of them in the local press, has been gospel, and certainly I would be very cautious, obviously, of doing that. But I think there's a clear breakdown in communication here somewhere, because I know we were certainly given a very good briefing last Friday, and I'm sure the party that was in previous to us was as well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Gannon indicated first there.
Thank you, Chair. Just to come in on this matter, we know factually that the trust lied to us about ring fence beds. That's proven. That's as far as we can see. We've spoken to and received legal advice on it in the past. They have not put in place ring fence beds for SWA, and the fact that we've supposedly got to 75%, okay, it's an improvement. But as Councillor Green has said, that's a quarter of people not getting straight into bed and going into a fairly horrific situation from what we've heard in the stories of what people have actually experienced. And just to come in as well, the downgrading of the hospital, and I know the Ulster Unionists at our council meeting last week said this was not true. It was a statement of their minister that the hospital was going to be downgraded to a general hospital. It's their minister who said this, that it's going to be downgraded, and it's not the only hospital that's going to go through with this. On the topic of Bengoa itself obviously does not specify specific changes. It gives ideas, but the biggest problem isn't necessarily Bengoa. It's that ministers aren't taking geography into consideration. Places like Fermanagh, places like Tyrone, because of their rural isolation, need to be used as hubs, and people from Belfast and from other urban centres can travel here for some services. Now, we are used to travelling for some things, and we all accept we have to travel for some things, but to completely remove services, as has been done with emergency general surgery, they say it's temporary, but really it's not. Let's be real, there's been no effort to get it back. They've used the budget to hire staff for Alton and Galvin. That's a permanent change, whether they say it is or not, and the minister doesn't appear to care. With boilerplate replies like we've seen, he doesn't really give a damn about emergency general services or Fermanagh by the looks of it, and given how he's treated this council, he clearly doesn't care about the people here either. And the thing about the department and the FOIs being refused, that is, as Councillor Green, I think he used the word scary. It is. That shouldn't be the case. I think it's in relation to Save Our Youth Services, and in particular, Jimmy Hamill as a name that's mentioned. Jimmy's done fantastic work over the year with FOIs and has revealed so much vital information. And I think it's a travesty. And I think we as a council, should stand up and say this is an absolutely ridiculous decision. And we should even question, is it legal for them to do this? Because I doubt it's legal. The FOI process is enshrined in law. And just because they find it annoying, and just because maybe people are digging and getting answers to questions that trust and department would rather they not have, they should not be allowed to block it, Chair. And I'd like to, if it hasn't already been done, second Councillor Green's proposal that we write to make those points. I think I've reiterated what Councillor Green has said and haven't added anything additional to it towards the letter, but I'd like to second that proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gannon. Councillor Green's indicating again.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. When Councillor Warrington started his reply to what I had said, I was waiting with bated breath to hear what the different analysis that he had received at this briefing. But he went on to say nothing. He didn't say what the different, from what I had said, he didn't go on to emphasise what it was that he had been briefed that was different from what I had said. So I know I wouldn't normally like to hear Councillor Warrington coming in twice, but if he has a different analysis to what I said at this briefing that the Ulster Union has got from their own minister, I'm all ears to hear it. But by just saying it doesn't make it through that there was something different. Could you explain what it was?
Not seeing any new indications at this stage. Councillor Gannon, yeah, you put your hand down. Okay, that's no worries. Folks, I'm conscious that the original minutes themselves actually have to be, seconded. Can we get a seconder for that? It's just a set of minutes up. Councillor McCardle, thank you very much. Okay, so we have a proposal from Councillor Green, seconded by Councillor Gannon, that we would make representations regarding the recent communications that have been coming out regarding FOI. John?
Yeah, Chair, I think there were three things that Councillor Green mentioned. One was the beds availability on the transfer to Elton and Galvin. Could I suggest maybe that first one, that is put on the agenda of the Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee? And the other two maybe are addressed to the department.
Content with that? I see Councillor Warrington's. Yeah, we also have a proposal from Councillor Thompson that this be added to the agenda. Yeah, acute mental health unit be put onto the agenda of the health subcommittees, and we've got a seconder for that. I see Councillor Buchanan seconding that. Okay, got a few proposals there, but I'm going to allow Councillor Warrington in on this. Last speaker, probably. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just to be clear, the briefing which I was part of last Friday was from the Trust and not the department.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so do this in order. We're all content with noting the minutes. I think we're all agreed. Are we content with the proposal from Councillor Green and Councillor Gannon? Seen any discontent? And are we content with the proposal from Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Buchanan? I think we're grand. All right. Thank you very much, folks. So, moving on then to reports for information. And 6.1 is to note the update report on funded programs, paper H.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide members with an update on progress in relation to 3 investment funding programmes. So in relation to the Rural Economic Accelerator Programme 23 to 25, and this is one where the Council is working in partnership with Southwest College in the delivery of the Rural Economic Accelerator Programme Employability Programme across Fermanagh District. And you'll see there just at paragraph 2.1.2 and 2.1.3 is an update just on the progress of that. You can see from the table there, 2.1.2, that it's run well and that there's been significant progress to date. The next update then is in relation to Peace Plus investment area 1.1 local area action plans. So the Council was informed by the Special European Union programmes body on the 3rd of October that its application and action plan for investment area 1.1 local area action plan was considered by Peace Plus programme at its meeting on the 1st of October, and the application was approved for grant funding of up to 5,671,000. SEUPB has indicated that the Council should receive our letter of offer for the programme at some point over the course of this month, and then we'll be working through the process on that. The next section of the report then is in relation to DERA, Rural Business Development Grant Scheme 24-25, and the grant scheme closed for applications on Friday the 8th of November. This is in relation to our Tackling Rural Poverty and Social Isolation Programmes, Rural Business Development Grant Scheme, which aims to support the sustainability and growth of rural micro businesses across the region by providing small capital grants for the businesses. And particularly in relation to that then, it's anticipated that letters of offer will be issued to the successful businesses on the 10th of January 24, with projects to be completed by the 14th of March then 2025. So in relation to the recommendation then, it's recommended the Council notes the update on the progress in relation to the REAP programme, Peace Plus and the Rural Business Development Grant Scheme.
Okay. Councillor Rennie.
Chair, I want to say thank you to the officers for bringing this report. Propose the recommendation here is the RIG programme, Peace Plus and Rural Business Development Grant Scheme. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I see Councillor Thompson is indicating.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks to the Director for the report. Excuse me, and I'll second that recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm not seeing any further indications, and take it we're content then. Happy enough. Oh, apologies, Councillor Donnelly.
Sorry, coming in the last minute. I just wanted to ask a little bit about the Peace Plus funding that's noted there. That seems very significant. I seem to have glossed over that. That's funding for the council. Is it 5.6? That's fantastic. Well done.
Yeah, well, that's our local peace plan. So I suppose I'm trying to think now, because we've that many applications, what's involved in that. There is some small amounts of funding for a number of community projects. Now, they're not significant grants, but there could be around £40,000. You maybe recall that whenever we were working on the peace application, nearly at the last, we were due to submit our application in December, and then it was delayed to March because we had to go out and seek expressions of interest from community groups. So I know that there's there's going to be some, I think it's 11 or 12 community groups that's going to receive funding through that. Not huge amounts of money, but still will make a difference. There's some work that's going to be completed on play parks, and some significant projects, in terms of play parks, and you would have received an update before on where those play parks are. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the details, but it is, yes, significant. And I suppose you'll start, once we get the letter of offer, and as you know from any funding you get from SEUPB, once they give you, there's a lot of paperwork that has to be completed before they actually issue the letter of offer, but we do expect to get that soon, and then we will be ready to go in terms of getting some of these tenders issued to get some of this work completed.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on then to the Community Wellbeing Director report with respect to council building illuminations for April to September 2024.
Thank you, Chair. It's a report just for noting on an overview of the illuminations received from the 1st of April to the 30th of September. Just on a side and link to that, members will be aware that we have a policy for illumination of both of our buildings, the Strood Art Centre and Enniskillen Castle. Section 5.2 of that process states that no more than 6 days of external lighting per calendar month will be permitted. We do come to an issue where members raise for illumination at the council meeting, where there are already maybe 6 dates which have been allocated in that particular month. And normally when members raise it at a council meeting, it is for that month, it is for the following week or 2 weeks or whatever. So, and I think we are in danger, and we have actually surpassed that 6 days per week. And so therefore we're not really in compliance with our policy. So I think in the future, if it's raised at a council meeting, I will have the number of days that we are illuminating, and I'll be able to inform members. And members can then decide if you want to do it for the 7th time or whatever, in order to ensure that we're still within compliance with the policy with members. If they agree to that, to step outside of the policy in that case. So therefore, Chair, it's just the recommendation is to note the report on illuminations carried out in the period for the first 6 months of this year.
Okay. Councillor Donnelly.
You, Chair, I'm happy to propose to note the report. But my next question is for John, is to ask, is it necessary then to review the policy as opposed to going outside the policy to extend from 6 days to 10 days to allow for that flexibility?
Yeah.
Or are we restricted as to review the policy?
Policy was actually reviewed in March of 24. That was actually upped from 4 to 6 in March of this year. The reason why there is a limit on it is just so that every day of the week that it is not illuminated, and therefore you lose the impact and the effect of it. And it was felt appropriate, the 6, and it is an issue or it is a big deal for those organisations that wish our buildings to be lit up. It is a very significant thing, and it's not to lose that significance. Is why we upped it to 6 in recognition that there were increasingly a number of applications coming in, and largely we can handle that. It is just I noticed in the last month or two that we are starting to get a little bit of pressure on the numbers that we're receiving.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair, and thanks to Director Boyle. I'm happy enough to second the noting of that for the last 6 months. Just a quick query there, John, with regard to I'm just thinking of annual events that take place. Is there any way that can be looked at? We have I think for example, the past weekend, I think we're the only council probably in Northern Ireland that didn't light up our buildings for remembrance. I think most of them were done on yesterday, on the 11th of the 11th, and then Stormont, Parliament Building Stormont was lit up there as well over the weekend. Something like that. What way would we go about that one? Can that not be looked at on an annual basis and looked at from year to year? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Chair, for those sorts of events, we would normally expect a proposal coming from the floor if that's what members decided that they wish to light up. And it is included in the policy. If members decide that there are an annual list that we should provide, then we can do that, and members can approve that annual list. And maybe that's the way forward. That we could propose a list for annual that is brought forward every year, or brought forward for a 3-year period or something like that. But normally it would be on the basis of members agreeing those.
Yeah, thanks for that, Director Boyle. That's probably something that we should be looking at, because remembrance is for everyone at the end of the day, and all parties as well. So I don't think there should be an issue there. But we'll look at it when it comes up again. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Thompson. And I'm not seeing any further indications. Yeah, Councillor Donny, you're happy to propose noting that? Yeah, and that was seconded by Councillor Thompson. And yeah, that's noted. Okay. Moving on then to correspondence. 8.1 to note correspondence dated the 11th October 2024 from Voice of Young People in Care.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Voice of Young People in Care. The Care Day 25 takes place on the 21st of February 2025, and there's a request that again that we would light up the civic buildings, but also that they're asking councils to plant a tree in a public space. That is not something that we would do as per our policy, or we would do it at a cost to the organisation that was requesting it to be included in our policy. We have a £50 cost for planting a tree, and this was some little bit reticent to going outside of the policy, and just setting a precedent. So it's just for members' consideration.
And Councillor Campbell.
Jeremy, I've got a Harley. Well, I suppose I want to note the correspondence, and certainly the 21st of February 2025. So that'll be the 10th Care Day. And I think it is important that we support Voice of Young People in Care, and that we do mark that occasion. And I suppose I would propose that we do go ahead and light the civic buildings. We can't unfortunately go with the rainbow colour, I believe was requested, or the multicolour, but we can go with yellow. So I'd be happy to propose that. And I suppose I see here 30 years of experience promoting the rights and voices of children and care leavers. It's quite an achievement by that organisation. And I also note that it was founded in 1993 by a group of young people in care and the professionals that support them. And I think that's a really, really crucial thing, that 30 years ago, that group was founded with the support of young people in care. And I think that's probably quite an achievement for 30 years ago. I think it's really important that those that advocate for particular groups across society speak to the people and are formed by the people in this case. So I commend, and I know that Councillor Catherine Kelly was very keen to speak on this tonight. Unfortunately, wasn't able to attend at short notice, but I'm happy to propose the illumination of the buildings. In respect of the tree, is it the case that we have it in our policy that we can do this, or is it just something that we don't generally do? I know you mentioned the fee there, but is that a future consideration, or is that in our?
The policy is grey in relation to this, but the policy does state that if a community or voluntary organisation wish a tree to be planted, there is a cost of £50 in relation to that.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I'm inclined to stick to our policy on this. Maybe if it's something that the organisation wishes to pursue. I understand that we don't particularly want to make a precedent of stepping outside the policy, particularly if some other organisation is not able to make, this is a few months away and there'll be no issue with illumination. But maybe, I welcome other people's views, but I'm certainly happy to propose the illumination, Chairman.
Yeah. I suppose, does this potentially creep into, I guess, the area in terms of our policy around not donating specifically to charities in particular?
Yeah, yes, Chair, it comes into that. But there is also, we have a policy in relation to the planting of trees or the provision of benches or so on and so forth. And it is very specific, that policy, in relation to the cost that is associated with it.
Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to propose that we schedule an informal meeting with this body at some point in 2025, because it's obviously a very important organisation, and the voice of young people in care deserves to be heard. So we have one mechanism that is useful, and I think that is an informal meeting. And should that be in February or March or April, whenever it can be scheduled, it's definitely sending a message back to the organisation that we're interested in them and we're interested in working with them in the future. Thank you.
Okay. And are you happy to second Councillor Campbell's proposal with respect to the lighting? Right, thank you. Councillor Green?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would be happy to second Barry's proposal there. I suppose the thing in relation to trees too, there's bound to be a policy somewhere on our books that would encourage us to plant trees with our climate change and everything. So I would think, it's doable. But I believe a conversation with this group would be very helpful, and then maybe starting off next year. But I don't think, there possibly should be a ban or any policy stopping us from planting trees, given that everybody tells us how good planting trees are. So,
Chair, and there certainly is no policy to stop us in plant. In fact, we plant thousands of trees on an annual basis. It's just as to the formality of planting a tree, that there is a plaque there which will say the voice of young people in care. There is a process around that.
Okay, I'm not seeing any further indications, so I think we're agreed on Councillor Campbell's proposal with respect to lighting up in respect to this. Okay, and we're also agreed with the proposal from Councillor McElduff that we seek a meeting with his organisation in the new year. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to item 8.2, which is correspondence from the Department for Communities regarding hardship funding.
Thank you, Chair, and this is following representation to the Department for Communities to the Minister in relation and linking back to Councillor McElduff earlier with regard to the anti-poverty strategy, where we had asked for one to reverse or to reinstate the funding for the hardship package for this financial year, and also for a meeting. You will see that the Minister or the Private Secretary has responded to say that due to the financial constraints on the Department's budget, the Department is currently unable to provide any hardship funding for 24-25, and due to the continuing uncertainty of funding, it would not be possible to consider recurrent funding, and also that the Minister is unable to meet with members at this time. Thank you, Chair, for noting.
Okay. Councillor Withers?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll propose noting the letter, although obviously it's a disappointing response. We know the lack of funding from the Department for Communities has a direct impact on our hardship programme this winter. And while the Minister has quoted budgetary constraints, the reality is he has made the decision not to prioritise supporting some of the most vulnerable people over this winter period. I suppose that's in contrast to the decision made by the Sinn Féin Finance Minister this week to allocate a further £17 million to his department to help mitigate the impact of the decision by the British government to cut the winter field payment. So hopefully that'll be some support to pensioners this winter, but just reiterate that's a decision that the Minister has chosen to not provide that funding himself this winter. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, and Councillor McElduff?
In the noting of the correspondence, thank you, and to share the sentiments of Councillor Withers.
Okay. Councillor Green?
Yeah, and I suppose Councillor Lyons, if he was given, Minister Lyons, if he was given us any good news, I would presume he would have signed the letter himself. But given that it was bad news, I see he put his private permanent secretary's head on the block to give us the bad news. I suppose that's the way you do it if you're a minister, but it's worth noting. Fair enough.
Okay, I'm not seeing any further indications, so I think that's proposed and noted. Right. Okay, moving on to other correspondence. I think we've got a few more here. Holocaust Memorial Day.
Yes, Holocaust Memorial Day, for members to invite members to register for the Northern Ireland ceremony for 2025 on the 23rd of January 2025 at 7 p.m. in a Belfast venue. Sure.
Okay. So, just gonna say, do we need any action on that at this stage?
Just propose and second.
Okay.
Members wish.
Enough. Not seeing any indications to speak. Can we get a proposer and seconder for that, members? Councillor
Happy enough to
Donnelly
propose, Chair.
and Councillor Buchanan seconding. Thank you very much. Okay, then another piece of personal correspondence, I think. Is that or?
Chairs, the proposed disabled persons parking bay at Clonmore Gardens in Omagh. DFI is proposing to provide.
Okay, proposed by Councillor Warrington and Councillor McElduff seconding. Thank you very much. Agreed. Oh. Okay. And we have one. Oh, it's that time. Okay, grand. Okay, so yeah, then we have a personal bit of correspondence.
Chair, it's correspondence for Care is for All Families campaign, which is dedicated to advocating for the rights to have direct payment carers trained in nursing homes or in home nursing tasks in all trusts within Northern Ireland. And there is a call for members to support the Care for All Families campaign. To write to the relevant ministers, the Minister of Health and Minister of Education, urging them to prioritise the change in legislation for an outdated Carers and Direct Payments Act, and to light up again our buildings in white to raise awareness for the campaign.
Okay. Have any? Not seeing any okay, I'm seeing Councillor McElduff.
Yeah. Surprised that Department for Communities isn't one of the key departments there. Maybe they're not. But direct payments, carers, wouldn't you think that Department for Communities or Social Security Agency has some direct involvement? Have they been omitted wrongly, or is it not the case?
I would imagine, Chair, because we are talking about the nursing, home nursing, that it is the Department for Health is probably the correct department.
Okay. In terms of any lighting decision, I'm just conscious we already just made a decision there, but albeit with a different care event.
Yeah, no, we can certainly do it. There is no date on it, so we would have to, if members decided to light up the buildings, we would have to contact the person who wrote the letter, to see when would be a suitable date.
Okay. Councillor Green.
Yeah, just a query there. I might have taken this up completely wrong, but was there a proposal there to light up a building in white?
In pink and white.
All right, because I was baffled at how we were going to light up a building in white, but
Okay, I'm not seeing any further indications. Yeah, just to note. There's a green, there's a McElduff. Okay. Then last piece, I think, is from Ards and North Down Borough Council.
Yes, Chair, correspondence from Ards and North Down in relation to the UK government's winter fuel policy change, the payment in relation to winter fuel payments. Members will recall that at the September RNC, it was proposed and seconded that we already write to the UK government in relation to the decision. So effectively, our action in relation to Ards and North Down has already been completed. So just to note the correspondence, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Donnelly,
Basis proposed to note, Chair.
do we have a seconder? I
Second
see.
the noting, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. I appreciate that. And that's noted. Okay, then. Let's see. Okay, I went through my emails earlier and I don't think I received any notification of urgent or relevant business. Folks, thank you very much for your cooperation tonight and safe home.
Thank you, Chair. Night all.
Thanks, Chair.